Welcome to the Endurance Studio podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Turner. I'm an avid ultra-endurance cyclist, bikepacker, and runner, and I'm on a journey to learn and share everything I can about how people can push beyond their limits. This podcast will explore all aspects of endurance through conversations with people I find unique and interesting. There's always an amazing story of accomplishment and failure, and always something to learn. I run this podcast from an off-grid mobile studio I've created so I can travel to the guests and have authentic, in-person conversations because I believe in the importance and power of face-to-face conversations. Thank you for watching and listening. This episode is brought to you by Squirrel's Nut Butter. Who doesn't need a little extra lube in their life? They make adventure lube. It's the best in the business. I use the saddle butter for riding and the anti-chafe for ultra running. It's all natural ingredients, sustainable packaging, and it's locally manufactured here in Flagstaff, Arizona. And go check out episode number 4 with Chris Thornley. He's the owner and operator of Squirrel's Nut Butter. He's an amazing human, and he's got some really great stories on that podcast. So check him out. You can use my unique promo code, Endurance15, for 15% off any of their products online at squirrelsnutbutter.com, or you can click the link in the description and it will automatically be applied to your shopping cart. So please use that code. Go buy from them. Let them know that their support of this podcast is paying off for them, and spread that lube love. squirrelsnutbutter.com. This episode is brought to you by Embark Good Energy. If y'all have been following me for a while, you'll know that I have a thing for maple syrup, and I'm stoked to announce that I am now an ambassador for Embark Good Energy. They hail from the woods of Wisconsin's driftless region, and they make amazing organic maple syrup. So I love adding this, what I call rocket fuel, into my bikepacking race mix. There's 3 flavors: salted maple energy, coffee maple energy with 72 milligrams of green tea caffeine, that's my favorite, and elderberry, which can be taken straight up or mixed with water. One 3 fluid ounce pouch has a lab verified 320 calories and 80 grams of carbs. And it's not that garbage maple syrup with high fructose corn syrup. This is 100% organic, great tasting maple syrup. You can use directly from the pack for quick energy, mix it with water for a hydration aid, or use it in camp cooking and even cocktail mixes. They're convenient resealable pouches, so you can have multiple uses while consuming it and avoid sticky messes. So use my unique promo code to get 20% off today. The code is EMBARK20, EMBARK20, for any products online at embarkmaple.com. Today's guest is a pioneering endurance cyclist, Arizona Endurance Series organizer. He's a mastermind behind the Queen's Ransom Bikepacking event. He's also a career Triple Crown finisher and the race director for the Arizona Trail mountain bike race. In today's conversation, we dive into the evolution of the Arizona Trail race, navigating rules, fairness, route changes, and FKTs, or fastest known times, in bikepacking events, inclusivity and controversies in endurance sports, and his own personal experience and contributions from over a decade of endurance bikepacking. I'm honored to have an opportunity to sit down today with John Schilling. The long-awaited John Schilling.
Ooh.
The man, the myth, the legend. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Yeah, man.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Dude, we just got done. I'm going to explain to the listeners and the watchers what we just did. Arizona Endurance Series, Pleasantville.
Yes.
Was this your brainchild?
Of course.
Okay. I have to tell you, you are my gateway drug. Okay.
All right.
Because it was my first Arizona Endurance Series race.
Nice.
Back in 2017, I think was the
Oh, wow.
first year.
Yeah.
And I remember just completely blowing up on that last BCT climb.
Uh-huh.
And you passed me. And I was like crouched under a tree.
Wow.
And I was like dying, dude. Dying. Couldn't believe what the hell I got myself into with this whole thing, right? And then you're like, are you okay? You're just chugging along.
Yeah.
Chugging along.
Do my endurance pace.
Yep. And yeah, man, that was it. That was the beginning for me. So thanks, John.
Well, you're welcome. Yeah, I was trying to think today, like when I couldn't remember when the first one was and when I actually scouted it. So I must have scouted it in 16. And the scouting of that route was pretty funny because the lake level was 82% full. So bits and pieces of the north end were completely submerged underwater, and it took some creativity to get around it. But I was so committed, I was already like 40 miles into it. So I'm like, well, I'm not turning around, like I got to get through this, So I did. Once I got through like where all the cockleburs are, that was like all underwater.
Yeah.
So I had to go far left to get around that.
Oh, okay.
And then Agua Fria was flowing that day, but I was like, I don't care how fast it's flowing, I'm going through it.
Right.
And once I got through the Cocklebur area, I knew I was kind of home free on the scouting, and I was like, all right. And I think the lake needs to be under 80% to make this available to people.
That's awesome.
So
was the bridge intact at that point?
Yeah, the first couple years it was there. I forget, it was one of the big winter storms. Like just blew it apart, and it's just never been fixed. So
yeah,
when the lake level's as low as it was today, it's not a big deal. You just ride across the dry lake bottom. But there's been years where we've had a bushwhack across the cliffs there to get around. It's freaking crazy.
100%.
And kind of dangerous.
Totally. I did that the first few times, like the last, I haven't done it in a few years. And I remember having to bushwhack.
Yeah.
And this year I just continued down. And it just crossed. And I'm like, hey, why didn't I do that last time?
You're right.
Because now it makes sense. So the water levels.
Yeah, I think water level this time was like in the mid 50% or something. It was like 56 maybe. I don't know. But yeah. So.
Yeah, man. Well, it's the 60 whatever 2 miles did not get any easier this time. It was like people put more rocks in the trail. That's what it felt like today.
Yeah, I concur. I think everybody concurred on that. I still can't feel my fingers, but yeah, dude, it's all good.
Yeah, but we're like, we're not giving up on the podcast. We were like, we're still going to do it. Like, we don't do anything easy in this world, right?
No, I mean, right?
That's why I started
it's just another long list of dumb ideas, right?
Yeah. That's why I started a podcast where I gotta like move a whole bunch of stuff around and like find a park that's quiet and make sure there's lights, and because I can't like seem to do anything easy. But so you were telling me just before we started, you were talking about the Radiolab podcast that you did.
Yes.
And like, I'm a long time Radiolab listener. Like, it was one of the first podcasts I listened to a long time ago. And I was coming back from doing the Stagecoach, and that episode just came out. Mm-hmm. It was called, I forget the name of it.
Yeah, so do I.
Okay, I wrote it down. Oh, Alone Enough. Here it is. March of 2023 it came out. Yeah. Dude, and I was coming back from Stagecoach, the Stagecoach 400 in San Diego, and I listened to it, and I had mixed feelings about it. Like, at first, like, it went pretty one-sided, I felt, but then it kind of came back around to the other side, and then you were on it. And I started getting emotional. I was like, I know that guy. Like, I can't believe that. So how did that start? What was like the production process like too?
Well, they reached out, about doing it, and they told me what the topic was. And I kind of, at the time, I was sort of just burnt out on the whole thing, just like, God, are we still talking about all this?
Yeah.
But then I had some friends who had actually done podcasts with them and knew the host like personally. So they were like, yeah, they're, they do a good job, It's not really telling me that I should do it, but it was kind of confirmation that like, all right, this is pretty legit. And I'll admit, like, I'm not really a podcast person or even a YouTube person for like videos and stuff. I don't know. I just don't do. I just go ride.
Yeah.
But so I never even like really heard of Radiolab. So which I don't know, shame on me. But so anyway, they reached out, and I confirmed like, yeah, all right, we'll do it. And then they just pretty much set the ball in motion there. And they like, we were just talking a few minutes ago, they asked me if I had a microphone, and I was like, oh no, I just have this laptop, and for a Zoom meeting or something. And they're like, well, we'll send a guy. We have a guy that like kind of works for us in the Southwest, and he'll be in Phoenix, and he can just come over to your house. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah. So this guy came over, and he just sat next to me and just held a microphone in front of my face while we talked on a Zoom and went over all the questions they had. And that was it. And it was a really pretty cool interview.
So did the result, I mean, did they capture kind of the message that you put out there well in the final production?
I thought so. I mean, there's always like some things that you're like, oh, I kind of wish they would have put that in, but you know, at the end of the day, it was like, nah, it was good. Compared to like some of the other stories and whatnot that had come out after all that, I think that the Radiolab one was, I thought, by far the best one that actually kind of showed some of the, I don't know, maybe science behind some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool to see.
And to back up, it covered the controversy with Lael Wilcox.
Correct.
And having support, perceived support, and the results from, I forget which year it was, the Arizona Trail Race.
Spring 22. Yeah.
And so, there was a lot of fallout from that, that you personally happened to you. I heard a lot of things, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want to like reopen old wounds, but I did want to talk about the podcast thing because like I thought it was really like, I don't think it got enough coverage, and it really painted a great picture of a balanced perspective, I think.
Right. It's almost like I think a lot of the story has kind of come out like in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And, you know, I really was in no hurry to, you know, blast anybody and throw anybody under the bus. But, you know, at the end of the day, it was pretty shitty. So, yeah, whatever.
So basically the takeaway on this guy, James Cohn, he was the neuroscientist on that episode. And I re-listened to it this week because I was like, it moved me at the time. Basically, I think what I understood from the bottom line that he said, and I actually I prepared a clip for it. And maybe, do you mind if I play it? It's just the clip of the neuroscientist on it.
Yeah.
I think it's just like super important to play out. I've never played anything from my phone, so we'll play it here.
Let's see what I have to say, the critics of Lael are 100% correct.
Like, according to the science, having someone you love with you during a hard thing, it helps.
Yeah. However, when it comes to the decision to do the thing the way she's doing it, I'm 100% on the side of Lael.
Yeah. Can you say more about that?
Well, one of the things we see is that people who are walking through the world with the expectation that if something bad happens, other people are going to take a problem away. Those people use more of their metabolic resources for growing hair, repairing tissue, building their immune system, doing all of these things that are associated with longer, healthier, and happier lives.
So what Jim is saying, and this is huge, is that when we believe there's another person there, you can use all this stuff you're storing up because there is a backup person there. Meanwhile, people who believe or do things on their own or feel that other people are not necessarily part of the solution, but they add more work.
Those people, and you may be one of them, Kat, I don't know, we'd have to measure it. But those people on average tend to keep a higher concentration of glucose circulating in their bloodstream, sometimes quite a lot more.
They store the energy in case something happens.
But that's not necessarily a good thing because you can sort of flame out.
All right. So my takeaway from that, my takeaway was basically like physiologically, there is a change. Some people it may be one way. Right. Some people it may be a different way. Like some people may store glucose more.
Right.
Some people may be able to use the glucose more or use the energy more to like go faster or whatever, for example, right? Yeah. But like the bottom line is like, for me, it was like, there's a scientific change that happens, right?
Right.
And so it like, I mean, it's really hard for me to like steelman the other, you know, Lael's case on that. But, you know, like I said, I don't want to dig up old wounds on this. I just, that the science is really important there, right? Yeah. And Radiolab did a good job at like having an unbiased opinion at looking at it scientifically. And that's what they've always done.
Right. And I think part of the whole thing that really was never really even talked about and sort of glossed over, because everybody gets so caught up in the whole, the emotional support, or like, how does, taking photos or video of somebody make them faster or slower, when it had absolutely nothing to do with any of that. The rule was in place so that somebody doesn't have a crew following them the entire way, so that they don't have that temptation to offer support to somebody.
Yeah.
Because you've done the races enough now. I mean, you see it happen all the time anyway, and for no bad intentions or anything, but somebody's like, oh, well, I just dropped off my boyfriend at the start. Well, I'm going to go meet the racers, when they cross the road here, and offer everybody water. Well, are you really? You're going to stand here all day and wait for the last person to come through and give everybody water? Like, no, you're going to stop offering water as soon as your boyfriend comes through. Let's be real.
Yeah.
And then how is that, so it's like, it's just the reason for the rule was just eliminate that from the equation.
Right.
Just pull the whole thing out. But then people just twisted it to just, it only means this, it only means that. And it's like, no, it means like all of it. But that's like the main crux of it, is to just eliminate the temptation of getting physical support. So like, I don't know, but
yeah, man. Well, there's been a trend in the world where people seem to be okay with making up their own rules.
Yeah.
And it's not just this situation. It's
a variety
of things, right?
I love the excuse for, rules are stupid. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know what? Professional slapping has rules.
Yeah. Power slap?
Yeah.
Dana White's power slap?
Yeah. It's like, think about it. Tell me one sport, one competition that doesn't have rules that you have to follow.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, like, bikepack racing is the exception, I guess. I don't know.
No, lots of things in the world became the exception, and the problem is that it undermines the whole idea of sport,
Yeah.
Completely. And I mean, and there's some other things too that, look, I'm going to move into something else that's a little more controversial. So Austin Killips, you recently made an announcement, and this may or may not be related, but because there's a lot of other reasoning. Your FKT, you decided. Well, maybe you can explain what you just recently decided to do with the Arizona Trail FKTs.
Sure. Yeah. So I made an announcement when it was like 2-3 weeks ago that I'm just not keeping track of FKTs on the 300, 800 anymore, because it's kind of ridiculous, because every year you're comparing apples to oranges, because the route changes, be it on, Mother Nature having something to say with it, or the ATA makes reroutes, or we have something come up. Like last year we had a private property issue come up like 2 weeks before the race. So I had to change the route.
Where was that?
Saguaro National Park.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I had to go down there 2 weeks and drive down and reroute everything.
That was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Because I was part of that race.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so leading into last year's race, there was the difference between 2022 and 2023. There was 10 changes.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Now this year, 23 to 24, there was only 4 changes, and they were all really small. I think grand total was like less than 2 miles. But then with that said, you're like, all right, well, the course really didn't change much. So then you can compare. And then the Highline Trail closes because of the fire.
Right.
And that's a 20 mile or now 21 mile reroute, which is significant. And of course, then Justinus goes and just obliterates the record, which it's like, well, everybody knows, had he ridden the Highline Trail, he was going to set it. Well, by how much? Oh, I don't know. So what am I supposed to do? Just like guess and pick a number?
Yeah.
That's almost what people are sort of leaning to. And I was like, well, I'm not doing that either. And it's like, that's why we had the rule. Like, if anybody sets a record, it has to be on the full route, be it, no snow detours, no fire detours. But then it's, again, the more you think about it, it's like, well, even this year, if the Highline Trail was open, but then next year, another big project opens and the route is different again.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I tried to have, a stipulation in place where, like, if the route didn't change by more than 10%, then I would leave it alone. If it changed by more than 10%, then I'd like reset records. Which is kind of what I did when we switched from the 750 to the 800, because that was a massive change.
Yeah.
And it just kind of made sense. But now you like look back even at the 300 from 2006 to what it is now, it's completely more than 10%. And the 300 record has never been reset. Scott never reset it. I never reset it. And it's just like, well, what are we doing? So I think, and I don't know. FKTs, it's like, it's cool that people can do that. And it doesn't mean that somebody can't still show up and give it their all and throw down a super fast time. Because I mean, if you're at the Grand Depart, you're still the winner, and that gets published. Everybody's times still get published. And if you've seen, I've created a spreadsheet that has everybody's times over the years, all the split times, because people like to see that kind of stuff. So I mean, everything's there, and I have a separate tab that shows each year's winner too, so that you can just compare it right away.
Right.
And then this year, I went even farther down the rabbit hole. I was like, you know what? I should probably have a tab that actually shows what all the changes were from year to year, so people can actually see, well, like, what was it like in 2017? Oh, well, they rode this and they didn't. I mean, Casablanca Canyons wasn't there. You know, all kinds of stuff has changed since then.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, you got to do your homework to kind of figure that out. But again, all the GPS tracks are still there. They're in the archive. You can go download them and put them on Topo Fusion and overlay them. Yeah. I just did that with the Highline Trail. I overlaid the 2010 Highline to the 2024 Highline, and there's like nothing that is the same.
Really?
Although they're right there. But man, they just...
I never rode the old Highline.
So the original Highline was 17.1 miles from Pine to Washington Park. Any guess on what the current Highline is?
No, but way faster.
Well, faster, but it's like 21.4 miles.
Okay.
It's like almost 4 miles longer because of all the switchbacks that they put in. And then
before those were just like straight up,
straight down, and over boulders and overgrown, kind of like Oracle Ridge, just flatter, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, like the early days, those 17 plus miles, people were hiking, 10 easily, like everybody.
Yeah. And
now it's like a couple 100 feet.
Right.
I mean, it's a destination trail now. It's incredible.
Right.
So
yeah. Well, I always thought that on the FKT thing, I was always a proponent that you should have if you're going to get this technical about everything, you should have a separate FKT for an ITT versus a Grand Depart, because they're just like very different races.
Yeah, they are.
You can cherry pick your weather windows on ITTs
Their
and
fitness.
And I think that the Arizona Trail Race, there's like way more water availability in the spring. Mm-hmm. Like if I was going to do an ITT attempt, it would probably be in the spring.
For the 800?
Yeah.
See that? But that's tough because then snow.
Right. You got Mount Lemon issues.
Well, Lemon and North Rim. And North Rim. Well, even Flagstaff some years, you know, depending on when in the spring you're going.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's not just snow. It's like, all right, the snow's gone. Oh, well, now everything's muddy.
Right.
And that mud isn't good up there.
Right. Okay. Never mind. You talked me out of it, dude.
Yeah, but for the 300, totally makes sense. I mean, as you said, a little bit of snow ain't going to stop anybody, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. On the 3. Yeah. So why I re-listened to your Bikes or Death podcast too, and you went into a lot of detail on this. So if listeners can go and listen to that for like a full comprehensive like Arizona Trail Race history and Scott Morris and stuff like that. I don't want to like recover that today.
Got that.
But I did have some. I thought I listened to it and I thought, hey, there's a couple bonus questions that I have that weren't answered.
Cool.
The ATA came to you to kind of initiate that switch from spring to fall, right?
Sort of, yeah. They did. Matt Nelson sent both Scott and I an email about it, because this was right about the time I was taking over, so we were both obviously very involved with it.
Yeah.
And he all he asked was like, had we ever considered it? That was it. He wasn't like, oh, can you guys move it to the fall? Because
he wasn't like getting pressure.
No, he was just like,
okay.
He just asked, and Scott was like, yeah, I sort of thought about it, but never really did anything. And I was like, oh, I really didn't think about it. So then I was just like, well, why don't we put it to a vote on social media and any people that are still in the forums and stuff.
Yeah. And
it came back. I mean, a lot of people responded. I forget the number, but it was more than I was expecting, like a lot of people. And it was like 95% in favor of October. So I was like, well, I guess October it is.
Yeah.
And it was really that easy.
Yeah.
So, and then with COVID and everything, unfortunately, after 2019, it was like we had like no AZT race for like 2.5 years because of that. Right. Because it went from spring 19 to fall 21 was the next one.
Right.
Because 2020 was a wash. But that's when all the changes. I was like, you know what? Let's see what we can do here. And
I did my first ITT on the 300 was March of 2020.
Okay.
Literally like the week COVID was happening.
Yeah.
Dude, it was so bizarre.
Yeah, I remember that.
So this was they were like, I stopped at the Rocking K Market, and I had to go number 2. No teepee.
It's like, no, like
No teepee. Teepee's all gone, right? And then there had been a running race there the year prior, or the weekend or 2 weekends prior that my wife had done. And I had been on part of it or something, and I saw that they left like 30 gallons of water out there over by Freeman Road, and I think it was Freeman Road. This was before the rain collector, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so when I was doing it, I was like, I'm good, no problem. I'm not going to fill up here at Beehive. I think Beehive is before Freeman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm not going to fill up at stinky ass Beehive. So because there's 40 gallons of, nice, clean, all American water right there. And, dude, I get there and it's all gone because it got raided. People were raiding the water caches on the AZT.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it was so accessible from Freeman Road that people were driving up there and stealing all of it.
Yeah.
It was nuts, dude.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have any water. And I was like, shit. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
That was the last time I ever passed water source without filling up.
Well,
I'll
at least get a little bit.
Yeah. Like a life lesson learned. So I got pretty deep after that, but, and then I finished and they were pulling people off. They closed the AZT right after that. And they were pulling people off because, the borders were closing and they were like, there were international hikers on it. And, all the communities, what are they called? The connection community, gateway communities. Those were all, closing, locking down and stuff. So nobody could get resupply. And so it was really weird, dude.
It was crazy times, man.
Yeah. And being on the AZT was such a unique experience. Because I was a much slower rider back then. And so I would take like a day or 2 to get to another gateway community. And I would like pull up my news and like turn my phone on, turn it off of airplane mode. Yeah. And it was just like 2 steps closer to like the chaos of the complete apocalyptic scenario. People, like things were getting weird.
Oh, for sure.
Dude, and I felt safer out on the Arizona Trail than in a public place during that time. It was super weird. But anyway. I
did a lot of really great solo rides. I was like, all right, I'm good at that. See ya.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people leaned into like having that opportunity, but then like Sedona and some of those other places just got completely out of control.
Yeah.
Because everybody decided to not go to the movies and instead buy a bike or whatever, buy whatever hiking gear or whatever.
Let's get outside.
Yeah. And it just got totally out of control. But back to the FKT thing.
Yes.
So, so I do want to talk specifically about Austin Killips. Right. Like, what was your decision-making process behind that and the FKT attempt?
Yeah, that was kind of tough. Like, I'll be honest, I don't really know much about that whole scene, and I was like, all right. So, because at first I was just like, well, should there be a separate category and all this? And I was like, well, bikepacking in general we try to be as inclusive as possible, right? And I was like, well, let me reach out to a lot of the other women riders and just see how they feel about it, especially the ones who have been doing the AZT recently and doing it fast and all this stuff. And it was lukewarm, I think, from everybody, because we were sort of like, well, like, how do we handle this, right? Because I don't know. And at the end of the day, we just all pretty much agreed that, we're going to just be more inclusive, maybe over being fair, I guess. I don't know however to say that.
Yeah.
Because, it's not like, we're giving out prize money for any of this stuff. You know? It's just like, all right. And then, Austin went and threw down an amazing ride, which is like, holy shit, that was pretty much it. And, I posted it on the AZT Instagram account, when she finished and her time and everything. And I was actually pretty surprised that the overall reception was like 100% positive. And I was like, wow, that was actually pretty nice to see that. I was expecting there was going to be a few outliers of somebody just being like super upset about it, but there really wasn't. So I was like, oh, all right. Well, I mean, maybe we did the right thing. I don't know, but.
So did you have it as just ranked before? Because I swear I went on the website one time and I just saw like rankings. Like there was no like category. There wasn't like, it was just single speed and non-single speed. Or did I imagine that? Has there always been like...
Well, like when Scott was doing it, he didn't, for the first, I don't even know how many years, like I don't think he even tracked single speed. And then that was something that we sort of just started doing later. And then now, like recently, like, there's definitely, men's, women's, single speed, men's, women's, geared or whatever. So, but yeah, it's just, I don't know exactly which year that started. You could probably go on the spreadsheet and it'll tell you.
Yeah, I'd have to dive into that.
Yeah.
But, the way you do it now solves all these problems. Like it's
hopefully,
I think it does, dude. I think it's a
I guess we'll see.
Yeah. So, I think it's a really smart way. And you've always had a knack for being able to approach things very pragmatically and rationally, especially when there's controversy.
Yeah.
And this is a touchy one.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's touchy in society. There's a Supreme Court case going on right now.
Right.
About trans athletes in different states and sports and stuff, so like there's a lot going on here. And so to just kind of like, I think it's the wisest move just to like absolve that. And they now are listed as notable. There are like notable ITTs. On the spreadsheet.
So if somebody doesn't obviously do a grand depart, I was just like, well, because obviously Austin did an ITT, Timon, his what was his 37-hour 300 time. That was an ITT.
So unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I cannot compute how you can do that quickly.
It's even watching it, you're just like, how? What's funny about his race was because that was the same year that Hefe was doing a ITT on the 300 on a single speed.
Yeah.
I think he started like either a day or like a half a day ahead of Timon. And Hefe was having a phenomenal ride, but then Timon like caught him in Tucson and just like blew right by him, and it made Hefe look like he was going slow. And somebody even like said something like, "Oh, he must not be feeling it" or something. It's like, no, dude, he's on record pace for single speed, and he set the single speed record, which is even more mind boggling, right? Yeah. But that just shows you like how fast Timon went, and he even said that, I could knock more hours off that. And I was like, yeah, that'd be cool.
Dude, he is such a monster.
Yeah.
So he just like shows up and just like destroys everyone and then leaves.
For a while.
You don't even see or hear from him. He's not on I don't ever see him on any kind of media and stuff.
He's on Strava. I follow him on Strava.
Okay.
Yeah, so he does some pretty good rides in Albuquerque.
Yeah. So. I mean, he just like, is he sponsored or do you know like his situation?
I don't know, but I mean, it should be, but yeah.
He just destroys.
He's got it. Yeah, he's
like
and makes it look easy. Like kind of like Kurt, right? It's just like,
dude,
Kurt just looks like he's out for a day ride, and you're like, how fast was that? It's like, oh my god, man.
Yeah.
So
Timon's one CTR attempt when he like fell asleep in a ditch near the finish or whatever,
right?
Or he didn't fall asleep. He woke up there and didn't know how he got there.
Yeah,
because he was so sleep deprived.
Yeah. That.
Fuck that, by the way.
Absolutely.
Like that is so bad for your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll take my 4 or 5 hours. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that, man. Like I'm leaning towards go to sleep at midnight, wake up at 4 or 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And I can keep going every day like that. You know?
Yeah. I like night riding, so I'll go deeper into the night, and then once I get sleepy, I'm like, all right, you start scanning for campsites, and like, okay. And I rarely set alarms when I'm out there because usually 4 or 5 hours for me, then it's already daylight, and then you just kind of wake up. Yeah. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for people who get their sleep, but they stop maybe like earlier. Like, all right, it's dark at like 7:30, but then they'll ride till maybe like 9, and then they crash out, and like, oh, they stopped early, and then I'm like, holy shit, they started like at 1:30 in the morning. Like, I can't do that. I'm like, no, like I kind of need daylight. But
yeah, I can't do that either. Dude.
I'd much rather go deep into the night. Like, I don't know. I get my second wind like right at sunset. Mm-hmm. So usually,
yeah.
But yeah,
dude, today I started getting tinglies on the top of my head at like, I don't know, noon probably.
Oh, really?
Like, I don't know if it was the dehydration tinglies. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like when you don't have enough salt, I think.
Yeah.
You start.
It wasn't hot. It was nice out today, so it was a nice day.
Yeah.
Got a little warm for maybe like an hour or two, but it wasn't bad or anything. And there was a nice breeze and everything.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful Arizona day.
There was a nice dead cow too.
I almost ran into that thing because I was just looking at the rocks. It was real chunky right there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh shit, there's a big black cow just on the side of the, and I missed its snout by like less than 6 inches.
Whoa.
And
That would have been something.
And then right then I stopped and then got a whiff of it. I was like, oh, got to keep moving.
Yeah, its guts were hanging out. It was, it was done.
Yeah, it was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, and the cocklebur section wasn't too bad this time.
Yeah.
It's been worse.
It's worse.
Yeah. Hey, so on AZT, I wanted to ask about Red Ridge, because 2 years ago I rode Red Ridge and it was the first time it was on the course. What was the impetus for that?
If the ATA moving the official Arizona Trail off Upper Oracle Ridge in favor, the Arizona Trail is going to go down Red Ridge to Catalina Camp. And that was because the mining company up there has resumed operations, and part of the Oracle Ridge Trail dumps into one of the dirt roads up top, which now has heavy equipment on it. So it was just more of a safety thing.
I see.
So yeah, and I've been on Upper Oracle Ridge since then, and they've actually like cut away part of the hillside, like right where the trail is. So I mean, you can still get through and use it, but yeah, it was just, so it's totally understandable. And at first I was kind of bummed because like, oh man, the first 2 miles of Oracle Ridge are actually pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
But then I rode it and I was like, after riding Red Ridge, I was like, nah, we need to be on Red Ridge. I was like, that's just way better.
Yeah.
It's rideable. And when you get down to the bottom and start Catalina Camp, that creek is usually flowing, which is like, what?
There's water.
Yeah. So heck yeah.
It was flowing in 23.
Yeah.
When
when I scouted it, it was flowing too. And people said there was water this year too.
Yeah,
so,
that's great.
Yeah. So
I stopped at Hijinks too, which is amazing. Like I didn't know if that was a thing back in 2020.
Yeah, it's been there for a while. I just don't think people necessarily use it, maybe because of its location to Oracle. Maybe they're just, especially if they were planning on going into town, it's really not that far, depending on when you bail off route. Because some people bail off the route right there at that dirt road crossing, which I don't understand that, because then you got to like climb back to the trail. I'm like, no, man, just zip through the park, unless you're going to miss closing hours or something. But so.
Well, if you're going to miss Oracle, or if you're going to go bypass Oracle, it's a clutch resupply.
Yeah, for sure.
Hijinks is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great spot. They had chairs all set out there.
Yeah.
Johnny Price, I watched Johnny Price like butterfly stitch. He had impaled his arm on a shin dagger. He had crashed and gone over the bars and stuck his arm into a shin dagger, and he was like trying to close it up. The guy's an animal, dude.
Yeah, he is. The guy's so great.
It was hilarious.
It's so great.
But then that dude, that Black Hill section, it's so good. I went through it at night. You okay? You cramping?
Mild. Keep talking.
Black Hills at night is incredible.
Yeah, it's that whole stretch is just it's one of my favorite of the whole AZT. It's just so good. It just feels just so out there. Yeah. Even though like you look at a map and you're like, oh, the highway's really not that far away, but you can't see it, you can't hear it. It's just, it might as well be 100 miles away.
Yeah. All you can see is like mining operations way off in the distance. Way off in the distance.
And now, and like you said, they've done enough work on the trails through there that it's pretty rideable, it's just like, like the original, many, many years ago, like when you first dropped in from Oracle, like all those switchbacks, they like all sucked. They're like really tight, almost unrideable. Now they're like more like tight, but they're almost like rounded turns. Yeah. Not really even a switchback, but which is cool. So they're good both up and down. So I remember when they first did that, we were joking. We're like, wow, this is going to be like somewhere like people actually drive out here to ride this,
Right.
Not just during the race.
Right.
So,
yeah. And then it, I don't know, that section from after that, from the Gila over, man, I got so many mixed up and down emotions in that area, that like Martinez Canyon area. And
it depends how you ride it. Because like if your only experience is from the race, it's like, it's probably not super high. Other than it being really scenic, you're like, oh, it's just so hard, right? Because it's either boiling hot And so it's like, no, you got to go do it like as a day ride, like shuttle it, when it's actually nice out and you're like rested,
Right.
Then you're like, oh, this is like one of the best trails ever.
Yeah.
It's just a totally different experience.
I mean, the only times I've ever done Martinez Canyon, Arizona Trail Race twice.
Yep.
Picket Post Pulverizer.
Yeah.
Okay, which is horrendous as well.
Yeah.
And Gila 100, which also sucks really bad.
Because then you're hitting it like right at sunrise, right?
Yeah.
So pretty early, you're almost kind of sleepy hitting it.
But it's beautiful. Like Martinez
yeah.
Canyon at sunrise is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible.
Yeah.
But dude, just like you're usually deep in when you're coming back up. I mean, climbing back up, I'm usually deep into any time I've ever done it,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So it's understandable why you would feel that way for sure.
Yeah.
So,
but and then let's see, I'm moving around on the Arizona Trail. My apologies. I'm like jumping all around.
That's all good, man.
Let's see. I know you said you wanted to make a note, and this might be a good opportunity about you said this a long time ago, so maybe this got sorted out.
All right.
The Canelas West closure. This is the ranch closure, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
The private property.
You wanted to clear up something about the private property. I wrote this down a long time ago in my notes, and I was like, when John comes on, I'm going to bring this up.
It probably was, because I think when it first came out, I think people were assuming it was a daylight closure.
Yeah, some folks are interpreting it as a daylight closure.
Not a sunset closure. So I've had to be like very, very specific and like direct people to timeanddate.com. It's like, look, this is the official sunset is, this time. It's 6:47 or whatever it is. You have to be at the highway at that time, else you're disqualified, period.
Right.
No exceptions. So it's like, just don't do it.
Right.
If you want to keep moving and you don't think you're going to make it, well, take the legacy route, and you can bypass it and keep on riding, and you get to go through Patagonia.
Yeah. And you get food.
So, yeah. I mean, it's slower, harder, whatever, but you can keep moving.
Yeah.
So
there's pizza in Patagonia.
Yeah.
But didn't you move the start time up by an hour this year?
This year, yeah.
And that was in direct response to that Canela closure?
Mostly. That was definitely part of the equation. The other was, the last 2 years we've had these oppressive heat waves. So it was like, well, it's an extra cooler hour to ride. So,
Yeah.
And then this year we had really nice weather. So I was like, well, that was really moot. But no, it's mostly for the daylight closure to hopefully get people through it without stressing as much about it. So I think it's really only, the far back of the pack racers that are the ones that, are either not going to make it or just be really, really close. I mean, if you're a solid mid-pack racer, I mean, you're getting through. It's one of those things. It's like, you can't like dilly-dally that day. It's not that you can't stop and take breaks, but they all need to be for a short purpose and just keep moving to get through it.
Yeah.
And then that, like real fast people, I mean, they're going through like at 12:30 in the afternoon. It's like, yeah, whatever, but not an issue for those guys. But I mean, everybody like this year, I want to say, I think there was maybe 4 riders that took the legacy route. And actually Rich and James, they were the last ones that officially made it through, and they got through with like 20 minutes to spare.
Yeah, they said that.
And then I think somebody went on that route and they knew they weren't going to make it. So they just found a place to camp, which that's what they should do.
Yeah.
Just do that. So unfortunately in October, that just means that, you got a long night to wait till sunrise, but it is what it is. And then, hopefully you can make up some time on the following days.
And if somebody screws that up and they purposely make the wrong decision, it could compromise the entire race.
Well, exactly. The AZT race it's kind of interesting because like, you go to like our rules page, right? And it looks like it's a mile long and you're like, oh my God, there's all these rules. And it's like, well, there really isn't that many rules for the race. Most of the rules are from outside sources that we have to follow. And that's one of them. It's like, that's not a race rule. That's a Arizona trail rule just to allow access. And that's for everybody. It's not just bikers, it's hikers, equestrians. I mean, everybody has to follow that rule.
Yeah.
And like the Grand Canyon is no different. It's like, those aren't race rules. That's the Grand Canyon National Park rules.
Right.
And state trust, if we go off the AZT, well, you need a permit. I mean, it's like that kind of stuff. It's like, well, that's just what it is.
Right.
So yeah, we have a long list of stuff that you need to do to, cross your T's and dot your I's. So.
Well, if you go 800 miles across how many state parks, land management groups?
Oh, it's insane.
You have to do a few things.
Yeah, right.
You can't just go ride it.
Right.
You have to do, you as the race director and you as the rider have a responsibility to make sure that you're reading the stuff.
Yeah,
and
it's
doing
like,
it, you know?
it's no different than people that just want to go trail riding in the Phoenix area. It's like, well, great. We have like 20 plus trail systems to choose from. Well,
Yeah.
we have, one of them is on national forest land. We have city parks. We have regional parks. We have, stuff on state trust land. We have stuff on Bureau of Land Management. So it's like, well, this one's a preserve, so you can't night ride there.
Right.
Oh, well, this one you can night ride, but you got to be out of there by 11. Oh, well, these, you got to pay $6 to get in if you drive, or $3 if you ride it. It's like all this stuff. Oh, well, this one allows e-bikes, this one doesn't. And like, yeah, I mean, it's just, the AZT is like no different, right? I mean, it's just, it's all that. You got to do some homework, man. You just can't like, oh, I'm just going to go ride.
Right.
It's not quite that simple, but
Yeah.
it seems that way sometimes, but it's not.
Well, once you get all your
once you
shit
figure it out,
sorted out, then you can just go ride.
Yeah, it only took me 30 years to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm
Do you
still
think
working on
that, I mean, there's a lot of like, I find that when I talk to different people, there's a lot of debate on how much information to give versus how much research to force people to do.
Yep.
Okay. What's your kind of approach to this?
Research it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if it's something critical, then yeah, I'll make sure people know that, because, right. I mean, if you don't know that, what are the consequences, right? But like, well, as you know, AZT water is a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to like just give you the list of, well, here's all the water stops. Oh, great.
Right.
It's like, well, no, do your research. So when you get out there, you actually feel like you know what the hell you're doing, and like, oh, well, if this one isn't here, I know that the next one is definitely a reliable one, but this one was, questionable. So I was like, well, if it was there, I was going to get some, right? And it's no different than store hours. It's like, that's not on me to tell you what all the store hours are. I mean, do some homework, right?
Yeah. Well,
these are great burritos. Oh yeah, but it's closed on Mondays. It's like, yeah, bummer. So
I just think that's like, that is one of the like core principles of like old school bikepacking.
Yeah.
Like is figure it out on your own, right? Like that's what makes it so great.
Yeah.
And in 21, 22, when the bike industry blew up and everybody was biking, I think there was a lot of like haters on that.
I'm
like,
sure.
They wanted stuff kind of like catered to them, right?
Yeah,
and it was okay for gravel races or whatever, but like,
yeah.
but like when it comes to it, like clash directly with like the bikepacking ethos of like, you need to do your homework, or else you're going to be in trouble.
It's all part of the equation, right?
Yeah.
And you see it all the time. That the fastest person doesn't always win.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Well, maybe it was navigation on this one. Their GPS went out, or they just read it wrong and went wrong. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah.
Or they didn't plan resupply. So then they got to a store, which they had to get food there, and they had their hours wrong. So now they got to either camp there or, waste all this time, or decide, well, can I push on to the next one?
Yeah.
Am I going to, it's like,
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's part of that equation. I don't know about you, but I love the research part. To me, it's almost more fun than riding. Almost.
I'm with you, dude.
I just love it, man.
Yeah.
I dig in. I love looking at maps, like all that stuff.
Dude, that's why I was so pleased to be a co-race director on Pinions with Dana, is like, because I like love the scouting part. I love the adventuring, the exploring.
Well, plus you guys change it every year, so it's like you get to start over every year.
I know, dude. I know.
I'm just like, I don't need to do that, but it changes every year anyway. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, you still have to do a little bit, but I mean, that keeps it kind of fresh. But although we might, breaking news, we might go back to one of the older legacy routes, like one of the first couple years.
Well, right, because I mean, eventually you're going to kind of run out,
yeah,
right?
We're running out.
But you also know which ones were really successful or that people really enjoyed. So why not bring it back? There's nothing wrong with that.
Just to change it up.
Yeah,
like we've been going south a lot, and we might go north a little bit this time around. So
nice.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, on rules. One other question.
You're going through a tunnel.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to keep this on the rails here.
It's all good, man.
There was that thing that happened a few years ago where the IG influencers like rode their bikes in the Grand Canyon. Do you remember that?
Where they were pushing their bikes? Because there was that one.
There's two situations.
Okay.
I want to talk about both of them.
Okay. Maybe I don't know about the one where they're actually riding them.
They like ended up busting them at the Tour update Tucson or something?
Well,
Do you
good. I don't know that one. Then.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I missed that one.
it was like the FBI busted him.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because it's in the state park, right? So
Yeah,
it's like a federal matter.
Yeah.
This was like maybe 2019. It was going back a long time.
Yeah.
So I think what.
Yeah, the only people I know that got busted for riding in the Grand Canyon were the old Sedona 5, the original, the OG gang.
Oh, I don't know these.
Oh yeah, they got nailed and everything.
Ugh.
Yeah, Google it.
Is this the same story?
I don't think so. This is like a long time ago.
These were a couple guys. They went down the North Rim. They rode. They got to the bottom. When they saw people, they started like walking with or like carrying their bikes.
Yeah.
And then they realized they didn't have the gear to carry it out.
Yeah.
So they had to make 2 trips up the South Rim, one for some of their stuff and one for their bikes.
Yeah.
And then like a year later or something, because they got picked up by like the FBI on, I really hope this story's right. I think this story's right. I need a producer to like fact check me.
Fact check. It's like, wait, that's totally false.
Somebody can fact check me in the comments.
Yeah.
But so they posted pictures of it on Instagram, and then the FBI were on them because it's like, this is like federal.
Yeah.
Like the Grand Canyon's like federal.
Yeah.
Like you don't fuck with that.
No.
Dude, they will find you and they will put resources into finding you if you do it. Like, I don't think people understand the gravity of that, right? So what is this other situation?
Yeah, I think this was last year. Some Instagrammers were, touring the route. They were going southbound. I think it was a guy and a girl. And I don't know all the details of it, but I think they made it down the Phantom Ranch and then realized I think the girl was in a lot of trouble getting out of there. And I think there was a ranger down there. And I guess whatever the ranger said to them essentially gave them permission to roll their bikes up to the South Rim because they were just hurting so bad.
Oh, like physically, like couldn't carry?
Yeah.
Perceived or
and
whatever?
It's like, well, okay, all right. So this ranger gives you the permission to do that. So then what do? They go and post it on Instagram. And it's like, no, because now what does that do? Now people, it's okay to roll a bike. Well, this ranger said, well, all right, well, maybe one ranger, but who gave them the authority to say that, right?
Yeah.
And it's a pretty huge no-no to do that. So I know myself, and I think the Stremke's also, like, we reached out to those people like, hey, can you like take this video down, or at least alter it and just get rid of that clip? And at first they were like defiant about it. And like, really? Like, do you understand like the magnitude of this, right?
Yeah.
Like as stupid as carrying your bike to the Grand Canyon is, we still want to do it. It's cool, even though it's really, really fucking hard, but I still want that opportunity. Right.
Yeah.
And so anyway, like it was still there for a little bit. I know I flagged it on Instagram. Then I don't know, maybe like a couple of days later, I noticed like it was gone because they'd posted it to like multiple accounts too. And then I did check, and then all of a sudden it was gone. I don't know if it came back. Once it was gone, I was like, okay, well maybe they took it down or Instagram did something about it. I don't know, but so yeah, that was just kind of weird. It's like, yeah, if you're gonna do something sketchy like that, at least don't fucking broadcast it, man.
Yeah, well, everything's broadcasted these days.
Yeah, I know.
When I listened to Shell Money's podcast, Bikes, with Scott Morris.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And the whole history of the inception of, the whole canyon portage thing and like calling around to the right people or whatever, and then getting down there, people are all confused. This is like such a privilege that we have that they were able to make that happen. That Scott was able to like make that happen.
Yeah. And it's still cool to do it.
Yeah. It's such a legendary part of the Triple Crown, right?
Yeah. And I know some people were like really bummed out when we kind of moved the AZT to October because of the Triple Crown challenge, like affected the order of it. Right. But I'm just like, I don't know. I think it's actually better because now not only is riding all 3 of those events in one calendar year just this monumental effort, right?
Yeah.
But the crown jewel of the final thing that you have to do is that.
Yeah. Not ride your bike.
Not ride your bike. You got to carry that damn thing for 21 miles on your back, and then you can be a Triple Crown Challenge finisher. I mean, it's just rad.
That's so legendary.
Yeah. And you get a cool belt buckle too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, that is just, it's so unique,
Yeah,
it's
it really
like,
is. Yeah.
It's so cool. So you are a career Triple Crowner now, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I finally got it done this year.
Congrats, dude.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you split it up over like Tour Divide. Did you split up over different timelines?
Yeah, not by choice. So I did the 750 AZT race in 2016, did Colorado Trail race 2017, and then signed up and was at the Grand Depart for Tour Divide in 2019. I had a DNF in Salida, so I made it 2/3 of the way down the spine. I had to drop out because I got a staph infection above my right knee. Oof. And come to find out in hindsight that it was MRSA. So it was like a really good thing that I stopped. So I was like, all right, yeah, I don't feel bad about that decision whatsoever.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that I met during that race, Justin, he lives in Iowa. He made it down to Del Norte that year. And so he didn't finish either. And then we sort of made a pact, like, you know what, we need to go back and just finish the route and let's just ride it together. We'll tour it, you know? So we're like, all right, well, next year, 2020, right? And next question. So 2021, Justin tells me he was training and I guess he tweaked his knee. So he's like, oh, I don't think I could do these big back-to-back days. I was like, that's all right. Cause he was going to re-ride the Salida to Del Norte section with me.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go meet one of my childhood buddies that lives in Denver and he wants to get into bike packing. So I'm going to take him out and we'll go overnight it, Salida to Del Norte in 21.
Yeah.
And then 22, we'll go back and pick up in Del Norte. So 2022, we go to do that and we're all set, and New Mexico closes all their national forests like 2 weeks before we're ready to go because of forest fires.
Wildfires.
And we're just like, well, we're not going back to ride all the paved detours. We're like, well, we already have the time off. And 2022 was a really shit weather for the Tour Divide.
Yeah.
So we were like, you know what, let's just go finish Colorado, which was only 80 miles, but you go over Indiana Pass. So we did that. And of course got rained on like everybody else. I was like, all right, we almost kind of felt part of it. So I was like, all right, that was kind of cool. And then 2023, we're like, all right, now let's go finish it. And then my wife got sick. So I was like, well, I can't leave, you know, in the state that she was in and everything. So I was like, all right, well, 2024. And it's like, but it just goes to show, it's like, I mean, you had all these plans just to go knock it out. And next thing you know, it's like 5 years to get it done. So finally this year in June, we both met up and rode all of New Mexico and stayed true to the route and got down the Antelope Wells. And we were both pretty overcome with it. We were kind of surprised how we would feel, you know, only doing it like that. Right.
Yeah.
But still at the end of the day, you know, we still rode from Banff to Antelope Wells. I mean, not in one shot, unfortunately, but it really doesn't change the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. So yeah, that got me my career Triple Crown, which is pretty rad.
Yeah.
So
it's so hard to, well, when you live in a world with like Alexandra and Stremke's and when you're constantly like watching those people, you know, they're out there, and Kurt, they're like such outliers, you know, and like the time that it takes. And you have a full-time job, right? Like
full-time job and a part-time job.
Yeah. Okay.
So
like, it's so difficult. Like the reality just to be able to finish that is incredible on its own, no matter how long it takes.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And I actually am kind of like more, I'm kind of, and I really want to talk to people that have I want to get their opinion that are Triple Crown finishers all in the same year. Cause I just don't know how, like if I had all the resources to do that, I don't know if I would want to do that all in 1 year.
Right.
You know, like it's just a lot.
Especially now, like knowing the routes, I'm like, man, that is just, you just have so much respect for those people. And, and even doing the routes, you still don't know what they're putting themselves through because I haven't done it all in 1 year. Right. Yeah. It's like, I did it, you know, easy. I spread it out over a couple of years, you know? So, but yet you still know like, well, that's the route. And man, you know,
I mean, the people that can pull it off are amazing.
Yeah.
And incredible. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's for me. Like I want to extend my pleasure of bike packing a little longer. And I think
nothing wrong with that.
I think I would burn out. Honestly, I think I would burn out fast.
Right. Yeah. And if you know that about yourself, that's good to know before you even go in on it. Right. Yeah. It's like, well, this is my plan. I'm going to do it this way and probably enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah.
Some people don't, and they go the other way and that's how they enjoy it, which is fantastic because it's a great watch, you know.
Totally.
So
I'm all for it. Wrong. Like the Matt Annabelles.
Oh yeah.
I think Matt is going to be Triple Crowning next year at least. Yeah. And Karen.
Yeah. Can't wait to follow those knuckleheads.
Yeah. They're the leaders of the apocalypse of the whenever the apocalypse happens, those are going to be the people who lead the world, who take over the world, because they're the most hardcore people I've ever met in my life. And I have such great respect for them.
Yeah, they're just so great.
I mean, I did rim to rim to rim running with my wife, and I saw Karen porting down in. Yeah. And I was in the pain cave at that point, but I'd only been doing it for like 14 hours or something.
Right.
Like,
and then you're like, whoa.
And I'm like, whoa, I am a weakling of the most weakling order. And
it's funny, like how your perception like changes in an instant, right? You're like, oh.
Yeah, well, and Karen gave me like the full download. Because she was all hyped up, dude. She'd just been doing lines of coke or something. She was just like jacked up, and she's like, and this happened, and we missed our resupply, and there was this drama in Payson with like getting stuff in time, and blah 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 blah. And by the way, my foot's broken.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just like, what? Like, what are you doing?
She's like, I taped it, blah, blah, blah.
That's good.
And I'm like, okay, Karen.
It's amazing what some of these people just refuse to let stop them or slow them down. They're like, yeah, it's just a hairline fracture, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, it's all good.
It's incredible. They're something else for better or worse for them, for their own personal, they definitely put their own personal health behind these goals that they've set out to accomplish themselves, and it is what it is. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So speaking of incredible people, what did you think about Justinis's thing on CTR? With the whole,
that's a tough one. I mean,
the motorized transport, right?
I mean, I don't know. It's just it's pretty unfortunate, but it's like it is for people that do the CTR. It's been a well-known rule, I guess.
How long has it been a rule on AZT?
I think since day one.
Yeah, I thought so, right? Yeah. Because I was like.
Yeah, because Scott had to make an exception when, what's his name? Drawing a blank. When he crashed up near Pace and Pine and didn't want to go to the hospital because he didn't want to get DQ'd or some shit. We're like, dude.
Speaking of putting your own personal health behind your goals.
And it was a good thing he went to the hospital, because had he not, he probably wouldn't be here. Tanner.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was way back. I forget what year that was. It was, I don't know, like 14, 15 or something, but so Scott made an exception. He's like, no motorized transport except to go to a hospital or to get medical care. It's like, let's kind of keep that in there. It's like safety first, right?
Well, race directors don't want that on.
Well, no, I mean,
like nobody wants that happening, right?
We don't want anything. Let's be clear. No. I just want people to show up and have a great ride.
But what we're doing is extremely dangerous, right? It can be dangerous. It can be,
yeah.
If you're
not prepared, which thankfully there's been very few that have showed up to the AZT where you're just like, you just should not be here at all. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much everybody kind of knows now like what they're getting into, at least to some extent, right? I mean, there's so much information out there these days with everything, right? People who still read blogs, the YouTube videos and all that stuff. It's just, there's information overload, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like, there's too much.
Yeah.
It's like, well, all right, well, just pick a couple, just read something. Because I always laugh, and it almost happens every year, because somebody always says like, oh, the Canelo Hills, they're so much harder than I thought they were going to be. Like, really? Did you not read like any ride report? Like, not one person ever says, "Oh, the Canelo Hills, those are so easy." They're like, everybody says how hard they are, right? So it's like, well, did you not like look at anything? Like, okay,
but
I don't know.
Well, it's different when you're in it, experiencing it, like with lots of things, right? Like CTR, everybody told me you're gonna hike and hike and hike and hike and hike, and you're gonna hike so much, it's just you're gonna it's gonna be unbelievable how much hiking, and I couldn't get it through my thick skull what that meant until I was. You're
like, for everybody but me
at Coney Pass. I'm like, I'm a strong hiker. I'm short. I have a low center of gravity. And then I'm at like Coney, and I'm just like going 3.5 miles per hour.
That's fast.
And I'm dying, that's fast.
God, that race destroyed me.
Yeah. What year did you say that was?
I did 17. They're really, really wet. Horrible year.
Dude.
Yeah, it was. God, yeah, it's funny when like I see on like the CTR page and somebody will comment like, I just want to go tour the ride and I'm thinking about, maybe like 10 days. And I'm like, fuck you, man. I'm like, my race time was like 12, 16, 24 or some shit, but
Dude.
It's just like, yeah, I was sort of trying, I guess. I don't know. I think I don't want to say I overlooked the CTR, but I definitely did not train for it like at all, because it was the year after I did the 750. So how hard could it be, right?
Yeah.
It's 200 miles, shorter.
Right.
I can do that. And it was the elevation just wrecked me right from the get-go. And I was just like, on day one, I was like, uh-oh, like this isn't going to go to plan. Because I can't, like, as soon as it even started to get dark, I was already looking for a campsite. And like, that's just not how I do those things. I'm like, I ride till midnight, like every night.
Right.
At CTR, I didn't. And then I slept for like 12 hours, like every night. My body was just wrecked. I was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And then it rained every day. And it was like, I wanted to quit like almost every day.
Yeah.
I was like counting down the miles to Marshall Pass. I was like, as soon as I hit Marshall Pass, I am out of here. I'm just coasting down the mountain. I'm going right to Aaron's house. He will be happy to drive me to Denver where my car is. I was like, no questions asked, and then of course I get there right at sunset and it's raining. And I'm like, well, maybe one more night. I want to kind of see what Foosa's Creek is all about. And then as soon as I hit US 50, I'm out of here, And then I go down Foosa's and the sun comes out and it's like, oh, this is why I came to Colorado. And then fucking Aaron's waiting for me in the trailhead to see how I'm doing, because I've already been out there for like 8 days or something. And then he's just like, you got to believe me, man. It gets better after this. I was like, all right, I won't quit. And I'm glad I didn't, because I would have just regretted it for a whole year. And then I would have had to go back and do it, and all that stuff. But yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I want to say there was 66 starters that year. Wow. And I was 19th, and I was dead last by I think the guy ahead of me finished 2 days ahead of me. So they actually announced on the Facebook page that they're like, oh, that's a wrap for the 2017 Colorado Trail Race. And I'm like reading this while I'm like in Copper Mountain, charging all my electronics, and I'm like, I'll let you know when it's over. I'm still out here, man. And he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was like, dude, I know I'm going slow, but come on,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But, I mean, I even got a pretty good chuckle out of that one, but I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I actually rode the last 2 days pretty good. I was like, yeah, all right. Actually did some decent miles. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was, I don't know.
Well, there's something to be said for slow and steady, dude. And like, you're a finisher,
well, right. Is it like, I guess a time that I'm like super proud of? Maybe not, but I did finish it.
Yeah.
So.
I mean,
but yeah.
I don't really like the people that are fast and they just go really hard, and then if they're just not having a good day, they just scratch.
Right, like if they're not on their goal or something.
Yeah, I just don't like that.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, going into that, I looked at previous finishers and people who I knew, and I knew I was similar to, and I was like, all right, I think I'm in this 8-day range. I mean, somewhere in there. I was like, all right, I think I can do that. And like I said, by day 2, I was like, well, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
And what am I gonna do? Like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna quit right here. And I was like, well, no, I mean, I drove all the way up there and did this huge shuttle to get my car at the finish line, all this crap, right?
Right.
So it's like, nah. And then like even during it, when I'm having these massive pity parties, right? And I'm just like, well, if I quit, like people are going to ask me like, well, why, why'd you quit? Well, you're like, well, I better come up with a damn good story. Because right now it's just like, well, did your bike break? Well, no, there's nothing wrong with the bike. I mean, everything was great. It was a little muddy, but it was fine. Oh, did you run out of food? Yeah, no, I started with 5 days worth like an idiot. Well, what about water? Well, water's everywhere. So it's like, it's like, no, I'm just a puss.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what are you gonna do? And it's like, well, you got to live with that for a year. Like, nah, I think. Yeah. And then like any of these big rides, you get to that certain point in the race, right? And I was no different on that one. I was like, well, all right. I'm like, whatever it was, 240 miles into it. And I was like, well, if I quit now, I got to come back and like ride those again. Like I really don't,
Right.
I was like, nah, just stick with it, finish it out, see it through.
Right.
So, and I'm so glad I did that. So
yeah. I'm I went through that same process with the 800, the Arizona Trail 800.
Yeah.
In 22, whatever that was. Where I quit, and I regretted it. Like I did regret it. It took a while. At first I was like, nah, I made the right decision.
Right.
But I was like, I could have just chilled out for a little longer, and I could have probably rallied. Right. And that's the thing about these is like the digging, the digging deep, like,
right.
Even though like, even today I had hints of just this like the food wasn't settling well. I was just burping up a lot of stuff. I just felt like shit on many parts of today. Right.
Yeah. But
And
then today you're like, well, all right, I'm done. Okay. Well, now what? I'm out in the middle of nowhere. It's actually easier to just finish. Right.
right.
At a certain point.
But you give yourself some space, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Is my point. Like, people deteriorate even more when they try to force something. And I used to do this early on bikepacking. I would just be like, I'm feeling bad. That's it. I'm done.
Right.
You know, my mind would immediately go there when it's like, just give yourself an hour.
Yeah. Right.
Go lay down in a bush.
Just something, right?
Right.
Just get off your bike. Just
yeah.
sit on the side, whatever.
And going up Reddington in 2023 on the 300, where I was just getting nuked. It was just like it was over 100 degrees. I saw you. You were like right outside. You were taking pictures outside of Rocking K.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we just put a bunch of ice. Like, I put a bunch of ice in my jersey, and just tried to stay cool because I'm just horrible in the sun. And then going up Red Ridge over 100 degrees, dude, was my like make or break moment, you know?
Yeah.
And I did I already say this story? I might have told it today to somebody. And I just slept under a tree, you know, for like an hour and a half in the hottest part of the day, and let everybody else get ahead of me.
Right.
And then,
because at that point it doesn't matter.
They all self-destructed later on after the sun went down, and I was in good shape. I know, dude. I know. Yeah. And I was like, this was a good move.
Right.
Like, I need to just give myself some leeway all the time, right?
Yeah.
And
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You have to decide, like, well, the way I'm feeling, is this something that is going to right itself if I take a day off, or even a larger block of hours or something, you know, like a daytime nap or something? Or is it actually something serious, like using my Tour Divide thing? I get the Salida and my knee's killing me. So I took that half day off. The next day I went over to urgent care, and they put a drainage loop in my knee. And I was like, all right. I almost blacked out when they did that. I mean, my vision went totally black, but I never lost consciousness. It was like the weirdest fucking thing.
Whoa.
I even told the doctors, like, I like can't see anything. He's like, oh, just another more minute. And I'm like, oh Jesus, like, hurry up. You know, like,
oh my God.
Yeah. And like, so I get out of there. And even that day, I remember I called my wife. I was like, well, this is what's going on, and I'm going to spend the rest of the day in this motel, and then tomorrow I'm going to start riding. I wasn't ready to quit. I was like, no, I just took care of it.
Yeah.
Not knowing, like, because you're in, man, like, right?
Yeah.
And then the next day I woke up and it's like even worse. I like almost black out just standing up out of it to go take a leak in the motel. And I was like, oh my God. It's like, I guess I need another day.
Yeah.
You know, but then it gets to a point where, like, all right, well, how much time is this going to take to get to a point where I can resume riding? Is it one more day, or do I need to like be here for a week? Well, I can't afford that. Like, I have one more week, but that's to finish the ride.
Right. Not to pay for
not
hotel
to just
room.
not to sit in Salida.
Yeah.
So then it was like, nah, this is just over. And looking back, like I said, I don't regret that decision one bit, especially knowing what it was. It was like, oh, hell yeah, that was like the best DNF ever. But even earlier in that ride, there was a couple of times where you're just kind of feeling like shit, and it's just like 11 a.m. and I'm somewhere in Montana. I'm like, you know what? I just need to close my eyes. I'm just pulling over. I'll set my alarm for 15 minutes. I just need to just shut eye, right?
Yeah.
I don't even need to fall asleep. I just need to close my eyes. And I did that. 15 minutes, good alarm goes off, and I'm like, yep, that's all I needed.
Yeah.
You know, now like my eyeballs are staying awake, right? And it's like, all right, cool.
Right.
And I probably did that 3 or 4 times, just randomly, like here and there, and just like, all right. Like, but one time was funny in Wyoming. I wanted to do that, just take a quick, 20-minute nap. So I pull off the side of this road, and there's a little like culvert. So I go walking down there. It's like, oh, this is perfect. Some tall grass I can sort of hide in, if anybody drives by. Not realizing it was like a foot of water down there. I just like walked right into it. I was like, oh shit, it's like all freaking soaking wet.
Dude.
I was like, oh, let me go. All right, like a little bit higher. It's like, okay, no, just lay down here. But yeah, it was
It'll wake you up. Go lay in the water.
Yeah, so I was like, at least it was like kind of warm that day, so I knew my stuff would dry out quick. But it was just kind of funny. It's like, really, the one spot I pick, it's like this swamp.
Yeah, man. So, what's been the biggest like change that you've seen? What, like, gear or maybe like whatever? I don't know. Biggest change you've seen in bikepacking, because you've been doing this a long time.
Oof.
Like, would it, for example, yeah.
Probably just the number of bikepacking companies and how pretty much everyone is started by a rider, right?
Yeah.
Who's been out there doing it, and every one of them makes top quality products. Whereas, you know, in the early days, you had like 2 to choose from, and not that they were bad, but it was like, all right, well, it's these 2, and if they're sold out, well, you're just kind of shit out of luck.
Yeah.
But now you're just like, well, just because people ask me, well, which ones they're all great. Just look at them, you know, and they're all kind of similar in price. I think I haven't looked for eons, but
Yeah.
you know, it's just like, we'll see which ones you just like, you know, just look at it. Like, well, do they make cool colors or designs or whatever? Are they real easy to work with? What's their current backlog? You know, can they get it? You know, are you in a rush to have something? And so that's been phenomenal. And it's like somebody's like, oh yeah, I want to get in the bike pack, and then like next week they're like, oh yeah, I just ordered everything. Like, no shit, like, really? All right, well, that's cool.
Right.
Like, but you haven't even been out. You don't even know if you like it. I could have like lent you some stuff.
Yeah,
maybe you're gonna hate it.
$1,000.
I know, right? But yeah,
And that doesn't even count like the back or the sleeping bag and all the other stuff.
Yeah,
That's another
you know,
grand.
You know, and like I think back, you know, like now, like, you know, the lighting, how great the lighting is, especially like I run a Dynamo hub, and it's just on all the time.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, I guess this is a self thing. It's like, I'm just horrible about charging stuff that like, or like remembering like, oh, did I check my batteries on my light? And then I go out on a night ride. Like, oh, nope, they're dead.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm screwed. So with Dynamo, for me, it just is like, I just, for the most part, don't have to worry about it. It's like, I always have light.
Yeah.
And that stemmed from the Gila 100 many years ago, where I actually had 3 lights on me and they all died. And I had to sleep on the trail and wait for sunrise to finish. And I was like 3 miles from the finish, but I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. There was no moon that night.
Oh my God.
And the guy I card pulled with, he finished like at midnight. So he was camped at Oracle at Tiger Mine Trailhead. So I roll in like at 8 a.m. the next day, right? And I was like, ah, fuck it. You know, I'm taking a photo of the sign, right?
Yeah.
And he pops his head out of the tent. And he's like, oh, hey. He's like, hey, what time did you finish last night? And I'm like right now. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, let's go. We're out of here.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so that was sort of a big impetus for like, oh, well, how can I always have light? I'm going to get Dynamo.
Dude, the battery thing is really interesting in the evolution of Axis and SRAM Axis and bikepacking.
Yeah.
And I released a solo episode on it. It's the wrong tool for bikepacking.
Yeah. I'm just like, because somebody's like, oh, why don't you get that? I'm like, no, because that's one more thing I have to remember to charge. And I know me, I just won't. And then I'll be out there. It's like, all right, no, that's dead too. Great. I was like, no, you know, like my manual shifters, they're just fine. I got pretty strong thumbs and shit. I don't know. I'm good.
Yeah, I got
It's
strong
like,
thumbs.
I got enough other shit to charge. It's like I try to have everything that I could actually, at some point or another, it will charge off the Dynamo, at least in some extent. And I carry a big cache battery.
Right.
So usually for me, it's just like, do I have light? Yeah, it's directly right into it. And then the GPS doesn't take hardly any power to charge it. So if that's running low, you just plug it in, it'll charge up real quick.
Right.
And, you know, and obviously keep my cell phone charged because I like taking photos. Hey.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, yes, you have to keep it charged.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of failures and stuff. I've heard multiple people, because of the way that it's designed, is just, it's fraught with peril. Like that the battery contacts are down on the derailleur, where all that water and everything can get into, and you mix water and contacts, electrical contacts, and you got a problem, right? Mm-hmm. And there's many stories. Tour Divide, there's like top guys who might have changed their race if they weren't running Axis, and I don't know, dude. Shimano hasn't released anything yet, like similar. So
so it's like, what are they? Sure they will at some point. But.
They will, but it's going to be like fully vetted, fully thought out. Like Shimano, everything Shimano does is like, you know, they waited on the 50 tooth. You know, that was SRAM. They were first to market on that also. And then they waited until it was fully vetted. So I just think it's interesting because I had the same problem with, I struggled with moving from a Garmin E-Trex to a Garmin Edge because I had to recharge. And I was like, God.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Everything was fine except for like CTR. I was like, what am I going to do on CTR?
Yeah, I've always been on an Edge. I have an E-Trex as a backup, but I hardly ever use it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the newer Edges. They have really good battery life.
Yeah, the 1040 Solar.
That one. Yeah.
It lasts for like 3.5 days.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's incredible.
Yeah, because I'm running the 530, but even that one, I've had it now for a while. The battery life is coming down a little bit, but it'd probably be good for like a day and a half. But again, it charges like so fast.
Yeah.
And again, if it's getting low, I'll just run a cable into my Dynamo USB port and it'll charge on the go. And it's fine.
So I didn't have to charge my 1040, or I didn't have to use my power bank at all
Nice.
on CTR. And part of it's because you can do fast charging on, there's some sort of, I'm doing a deep dive video on this, but there's like a different capacities of fast charging with the Garmin Edges. So they'll accept a little, like the USB-C. They'll accept the more power compared to what they recommend. I bought like a tester, and I'm like going deep into this thing because I'm like obsessed with it.
But that's cool though.
It helped me on CTR, just pop it in at resupply. Within 45 minutes, I was from 30% to like, I don't know, 55 or 60%. And that would last another 2 days,
right?
Yep. So like it made a big difference.
Which that's huge, yeah.
Yeah, not having to deal with it. So I don't know. I just all the electronics thing kind of bugs me too. Like things are all moving towards this like rechargeable model.
Yeah.
And it kind of is a problem for like multi-day stuff.
Yeah. I really like my helmet light. God, I've had that for probably 10 years. It's one of those exposure Diablos.
Yeah.
So everything rechargeable, which is nice, but it's like no cables, no nothing. It just looks like a flashlight you'd have at home, and it's like this big.
Oh yeah.
And just clips around your helmet, and then it's like programmable.
Yeah.
So I always, whenever I'm out, like, all right, I'm going to be doing multiple overnight stuff or a lot of night riding, right? And then you can put it in like low energy consumption mode, and then I'll run it on low because I have my dynamo light as the companion.
Yeah.
And the only time I'll even bump it to medium is if I'm on like some technical single track at night. Then it's like, all right, let's get a little bit more. But other than that, on low setting, it'll run. I think I get over 24 hours of light on it. So I was like, well, and again, when I need to charge it, it charges pretty quick, and that's what the cache battery is for. So I was like, all right, that thing's just been solid.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So are the Stremkes responsible for the push ridge? What is it called?
The lemon push. Partially responsible. Okay. It was a 5-headed monster of Andrew, Alexandra, Johnny, Zach, and Connor.
Okay, that crew.
Yeah, the single speed freaks.
Yeah.
But and it's funny because when they proposed what they were going to do that year, myself and I'm sure Scott and I think even Kurt, we like all kind of try to talk them out of it. Like, what are you like what are you doing? That's like so stupid, but they were so hell bent on it. I was like, all right, well, let's see, and then those sons of bitches, they all pulled it off, you know, and not only pulled it off, but every one of them finished the 800. So it's not like they just pulled off the lemon push, and maybe people even don't realize now since it's in the route, but what those guys did that year, they did the full lemon push. So they went up Bug Springs, Green Mountain, Incinerator Ridge, Kellogg, like people do now, but then they continued on to Butterfly, Crystal Spring, and the Control Road. So in the Control Road where they get on at Crystal Spring, you're kind of far down. I mean, you're not like right there.
Yeah.
I mean, you still got a lot of climbing.
Yeah.
So, and they kind of all agreed like just how utterly stupid and difficult like Butterfly and Crystal Spring was.
Okay.
So it was just like, well, and then talking to him about it, Andrew and I, we were kind of going back and forth, and I was like, well, like how about this as a compromise? And then the compromise is what you see now is that at the top of Kellogg, you hit Mount Bigelow, and then you can get off the lemon push there, and you're kind of on some dirt roads for about 2 miles, and then you get to pick up some really cool single track that takes you into Summer Haven. I don't think most people think Sunset Trail is pretty cool, but the other two are.
I think it's cool.
Yeah,
Sunset.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I just really like it because it actually forces all the riders like straight through Summer Haven. Like it's on route now.
Yeah.
Because it always had been slightly off route.
Right.
Which, some people are like, oh, I'm not going off route for anything. It's like, dude, it's like 100 feet off route. Nah, it's like, all right, whatever.
Right.
But so the full lemon push to what they do now is actually about half. So imagine like another like double.
Yeah.
It was just so stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we kind of were going back and forth about like, this compromise, I think they all were like, yeah, that sounds about right. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't really gotten a whole lot of like super negative feedback about it. I mean, people, they're like, yeah, it's, 80% hike a bike, and they sort of bellyache about it a little bit, but not really, because it's one of those things. It's like, it's kind of like so dumb and so difficult, but then you do it. And it's sort of like the Grand Canyon, right? And you're like, you know what? I just did that. That was actually kind of cool. I'm like, wow, I'm pretty proud of myself for doing that. And one of the other main things for putting that in a route is it's an in-route kind of like qualifier of sorts for the Grand Canyon.
Right.
Because if you're signed up for the 800 and you're really, really struggling with the lemon push and you just can't really wrap your head around that or do it, that you have no business dropping into the Grand Canyon, like zero.
Right.
And we can't have that. So I mean, at least with the lemon push, there's a lot of bailouts. You can get off that fairly easily. So yeah, it's just there's multiple reasons of why we do it now, aside from just getting off the highway, and it's the official AZT bypass of the push wilderness. That's why it's called the lemon push, because it replaces the AZ trail through the push wilderness. So.
And how cool of a name is Incinerator Ridge, dude?
Right?
Like,
yeah, that trail's wild. It's like super difficult even riding down it. But yeah, it's nuts.
I mean, I thought Molino Basin was nuts, but I can't wait to give it a go one day.
Well, it is, but think of it this way: when you start up Molino Basin, you're essentially starting up the lemon push.
Right.
That's kind of where it starts.
Right.
Because you've got the Molino hike a bike, and then even that trail like from Molino to prison camp is no gem either.
Right.
It's along the lines,
right.
But with all that said, was it last year, 2 years ago, the Coronado National Forest, which is on Mount Lebanon, approved a master trail plan. And they are going to be building trails that are going to parallel most of the lemon push. And those are probably going to become the official AZT bypass for push wilderness.
Breaking news.
And when those are done, that's probably going to be their route, because they're going to try to make them as close to rideable grade as possible. So, but the good news, if you like the lemon push, like Green Mountain ain't going anywhere. There's no replacement for Green Mountain.
All right, I see.
On the books. But they're going to build a trail that's going to parallel Bug Springs, and then a trail essentially, like, so then you'll do that, like say you'll do that trail, right? And then that'll tie into Green Mountain, and you'll get through the gnarliest stuff on Green Mountain. And then when you finish Green Mountain, you'll probably actually have to come down the highway, but just a real little bit, like probably not even a quarter mile.
Yeah.
And then you're going to pick up this new trail, and this new trail is going to be on the opposite side of the highway. And you get on this new trail, and it's going to take you all the way to the Sunset Trailhead. So it'll replace Incinerator, Kellogg, Secret in 1918.
Okay.
So yeah, but we'll see. I don't know what the time. I gotta ask around, see what the time frame is on that.
Yeah.
But they've already started building some new trails on Mount Lemmon. They're some of the hiking ones in the wilderness. So I was like, well, they're moving forward with it, so
right.
it's coming.
Okay.
So yeah, add it up. It's another Arizona Trail difference from one year to the next.
Right.
Right.
Right. It's another reason to not track FKTs.
Yeah, and there's another. If you go on the ATA's website, they have it's a little buried in there, but you can find their interactive map for the trail.
Yeah. And
it's like the whole state, and you can kind of poke around. It's pretty nice. But if you look real closely and go zoom in on Flagstaff, you can see where the next huge project is. That's the Maverick project, and that's going to replace all the forest roads north of Humphreys out to Babbitt Ranch. So that's like another 15 plus miles of single track all through the forest that's going in.
Okay. So I thought it was going to go straight to the Maverick in town.
That would be
the
cool.
Maverick gas station.
Yeah.
No.
Well, maybe they'll build one out there.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
They kind of need a resupply out there.
They're going to build a Maverick right
there.
Yeah.
For the one rancher that lives out there.
Yes, sir. And once a year.
Yeah. So there's that big project. They're starting to get feedback and about replacing all the dirt roads around Kentucky Camp. That's probably going to happen. They still have the alternate ending for Ripsey is still on there, whether or not the mining company pushes forward with their project. So that's
right.
And Scott actually helped route that new one. So if that goes in, that'll be kind of cool. So yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of big items on the books. And I always joke with people too, like if the 800 finish rate gets a little too friendly, like, I don't know, consistently starts pushing 80% or something, I'll add in Montana Mountain or something. So,
okay. I don't know Montana Mountain.
That's right. Just after Picket Post.
Oh, okay.
So you can just go straight up the mountain on the trail
Instead of like Gold Canyon.
Well, no, you'd still go there.
You
would
just go straight up first.
It would add. It would add probably another 25 miles before your next resupply.
Okay.
If you don't go off route, so
Okay.
it would probably start forcing people to go like to Superior or something, because Queen Valley right now is a pretty easy ride to get to it, but
Right.
Montana Mountain would then be in between.
Right.
So I just kind of keep that one in my back pocket if you.
So funny, dude. I have in my notes here. I have sadist or masochist. Which are you?
Yes.
I had to look up the difference.
I don't. What is the difference?
And it's not. I thought it was all sexual, but apparently it could be sexual, but it doesn't have to be sexual.
Right.
So sadism is when you like inflicting pain on other people. And masochism is when you like inflicting pain on yourself, like today's ride.
Well, I guess yes for both.
So I guess both.
I don't know, yeah, I mean,
John Schilling.
I can't really lie. I mean, like look at my track record. I guess I don't know.
No, it's funny because I've heard like this rumor that like people think you do things just to make it harder.
No,
right.
No, there's reasons.
Right.
But yeah, it's just. I mean, ideally, and I think this goes for most, probably like AZT, CTR, and Tour Divide. If you look historically over the finish rates, I mean, they all three, because actually, I think Scott and I, we looked this up maybe 2 years ago. We looked at like every year or something like that to see what the rate was. And they were all pretty close to each other and not much. They were like kind of hovered around 50%.
Yeah.
Plus minus, like I don't think any of the three were above 60.
Yeah.
And we were just like, yeah, I'm good with that. That makes it a challenge. That's what it is. It's a challenge, man. It's a personal challenge. It's you against the trail.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, not everybody's going to finish that. That's all right.
Right.
Shit happens. Because you see that too. I tell people, it's like, well, because some people are like, oh, I can't do that. Well, why not? I'm like, well, I tell people, well, why don't you go look at the history and look at the DNF list every year. And look at all, and especially if you know the sport and you follow it, like you know the names, right? And you'll see how many people who you think are the elite of the sport are on that list, right? And it's like, well, what happened to them that year?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it happens to everybody. I mean, it's like, just ride your ride.
Right.
And hopefully don't do anything stupid, but
that's hard to do though, man.
But yeah,
it's hard to just ride your ride.
It is.
Some people can do it. My wife can do it easily.
Especially in a grand apart, right?
Yeah.
Because you get sucked into that, like, oh, I got to keep up with so-and-so. And then next thing you're like, that was too fast or whatever. But
I think it's natural.
Yeah.
It's our natural, like, tribal competitive drive,
Yeah.
So, and people that can just back up and do their own thing, I envy those people, I get sucked in.
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I'm just like, whatever.
And my wife, she doesn't either, and she's fine. She doesn't have that, But it definitely plays with your head. But like I was thinking that today. I was thinking, man, everybody feels like shit right now. Not just me.
Yeah. Well, you're right.
Like everybody.
Actually, I felt really good for the first half of the ride. Then I was like, all right, this is starting to get me.
Yeah.
So, but.
Well, yeah, I think like. Towards the end there, everybody starts to get kind of sick of it. Especially when like if I was doing a long multi-day ride, I would have slowed way down.
Right. I
would have probably taken more breaks.
Yep.
And I wouldn't have hammered the gravel road as much.
Right.
And it would have changed the dynamics a little bit, but I also didn't know that the finish was near. I would have like just settled in a little bit more, right? So yeah, there were a lot of side-by-sides today. It was pretty out of control.
I'm glad I had my buff today, because I was just like, just cover the nose and mouth. And
dude, it was dusty. Do you know that new side-by-side law that's going into effect next year? Have you heard about that?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay.
Tell me more.
Yeah, dude, I will. I wrote stuff down about this.
Oh, awesome.
It's because I'm not conflicted. There are some nice side-by-side drivers, but the majority of them are not very pleasant to be around.
To me, the thing with them, with those, what do you want to call them? Those type of outdoor enthusiasts, right?
Yeah.
There's a certain mindset. Like today, I would say the vast majority of them didn't even think about slowing down.
Right.
Because how far from Phoenix are we? We're not.
Right.
Those are like the city people that just like, oh, it's my personal racetrack today.
Right.
I tend to notice like the farther away you get from the city and then you run into like those same people, they're super cool. They slow down. They'll probably even offer you a beer, or ask what you're doing. Whereas the people that we ran in today, they're just like, nah, A to B, as fast as I can go. And like, all right, whatever. But at least I know that. So it's like, all right, I'm on dirt roads that are near the city. It's just, when I'm riding, stay far right.
Yeah.
Don't drift to the middle of the road because these knuckleheads they're the ones drifting. And yeah, you see it all the time.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So
I almost got nailed one time over by Kentucky Camp.
Yeah.
Back in those roads.
Yeah.
Yeah, riding AZT. Or no, it was like one of the AES races. They came around a corner.
Yeah, and just like, oof.
Yeah, it was crazy. But
yeah.
So there's a law in Arizona, SB 1567, that was passed. So there's a driver's license requirement, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
You gotta have a driver's
it's
license.
like, you mean there wasn't?
OHV operators must have a valid driver's license on public roads, excluding specific off-highway routes. So there wasn't before.
Right.
The parental accountability, parents are held responsible for violations by children under 12. With penalties for minors under 16. And here's the two big ones that caught my attention. Mandatory safety training beginning in 2025. OHV operators must complete a state-approved safety course. The safety course requirement, it'll be reviewed and possibly repealed in 2027. So it only extends from 25 to 27, and then they'll see how it goes.
Yep.
And this is another big one, alcohol regulations.
Wow.
Extends open container and liquor laws to OHVs and recreational vehicles.
Wow.
So that means before there weren't any laws for open containers in off-road vehicles, which is insane.
Wild West, man.
So that's all going into effect in 2025. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch that. So
we have a Democratic governor, so we'll see. But if it was like a conservative governor, I don't think any of that stuff would have, like if it was Ducey or whatever, none of that stuff would have gone into place. There were so many people shooting guns today.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. At least they all seemed like they were doing it responsibly. I don't think I heard any bullets going over my head. They were all shooting in the hillsides. So I was like, all right.
I heard stuff exploding.
Yeah, there was some big stuff out there. Yeah.
Dude, there was like explosions in the distance.
I mean, you're not mountain biking in Arizona if you don't hear gunfire, Just
I grew up around this stuff. So where are you from?
Eastern Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So, which, I mean, it's funny because like Pennsylvania is like huge for deer hunting, but my family didn't do any of that. So I was like I've never shot a gun in my life. Like,
really?
So it's like, it's just, I don't know. I just never had the opportunity and just, I don't know. It never really hit a chord with me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's not to say that I wouldn't, but whatever.
I think Eastern Pennsylvania deer hunting is a little bit different of a vibe.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah.
Arizona.
It's
conservative gun. Because I grew up like with guns and hunting and stuff like that.
When I've lived out here now for 33 years, so it's like, I get it now. Like at first you're like, whoa, what in the hell?
Like going out and shooting propane tanks is like something you do on a Saturday afternoon.
Right. We were, Mike and I, we were laughing about the Subaru that's out on route.
Oh yeah, that's all.
Well, now we're like, it's starting to get Arizona-fied. It's got some gunshots in it. The tires are all flat. All the windows are now broken out. So I've taken a photo of it every time I pass by it to see the cycle of destruction of it. So it's pretty funny because
it's been there years now, right?
I think 3.
Okay.
And it was brand new. Like somebody brand new.
They didn't want to get it towed out of there.
Who the hell's gonna go get it? I can't believe it made it to where it is.
Yeah.
Because there's that descent right before that, and you're like, and I know that it's out there, and I'm like, there's no way in hell how did that thing get down this?
Yeah.
Like I know Subarus are pretty capable, but I mean that's like, it's difficult to like mountain bike down it,
Yeah.
And like, whoa, I was like, I would have liked to like have seen that.
Maybe it was some kind of like YouTube car show or something where they were testing the limits of the Subaru and they just left it out there.
Right. It's like
they just abandoned
there's obviously
it
some story, and it's just like, well, did somebody like steal? Is there some crime behind it?
Right.
It's like, or is there like that?
Right.
It's like, what's the whole background here? But man, that thing is just out there, and it's not going anywhere. Nobody's gonna go get it.
That was a super regular occurrence when we grew up, when I was growing up, because we lived backed up to some state land that went to like Arivaca and like the border.
Yeah.
And so we always had illegals coming through, and they would usually get picked up by a van or something or a truck, and then they would just like drive the truck until the tires fell off and it turned into that, right?
Yeah, right.
And there was actually like people, my neighbors, that would go and harvest parts. That was like their job, was to go take parts and then, you know, resell them from the desert, from the vehicles in the desert.
Well, it looks like people have finally found that one, because like it looked still pretty brand new the first year.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Dude, that's nuts. All right, man. All right. I think that's it I have so much more to ask you, but I think we should probably wrap this up and get you on your way.
Yeah.
So we'll have to do this again sometime.
All right.
So
sounds good.
Let's do some shout outs, but you know, I did want to thank you for everything you do, man. Like your Queen's Ransom, AAS, AZT.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been such a huge influence on my life, the things you've organized. It's like, it's changed my life, to be honest. Like, gave me direction, gave me purpose.
Yeah.
No bullshit, man. Like, I love this stuff and I love doing this stuff. So
Yeah, well, me too.
So I appreciate like you opening this world up to me, man.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, I was shown the way by plenty of other people too. So it's definitely, it's like anything. It's never just one person, right?
Yeah.
You know, for me, I went down the rabbit hole with AES. That's how I kind of got into the long distance stuff. And I mean, that was Scott Morris and Chad Brown that started all that. And it's like, for me, like the funny story about that is like one day I was at work and one of my coworkers was reading some blog post of some guy in Phoenix, and he had done some pretty good sized ride, and somebody had commented like, well, that's like the biggest ride I've ever seen. And he's like, oh, that's nothing compared to these guys in Tucson. You should check these guys out. And it was like links to both Scott and Chad's blogs at the time. And this was probably back in like 2008, 2009. And I joke, it's like, oh, I made the mistake of clicking those links, but no, it was no mistake at all. It was just like, holy shit. And then I'd be like, wow, I wonder how many days that took. And I was like, oh my God, he did that in a day. I was like, well, that would take me 4 days. So like, maybe I could go do like sections of it. And then I would see where the route was. No, you can't do that. It's like, I don't have a 4-wheel drive that's like that capable. It's like, well, how do you do a ride like that? I was like, yeah, those big rides seem pretty cool. And yeah, I just started stacking miles, you know, add 5, keep adding 5, add 5.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it was like, all right, I can do a 50, 60 mile ride and not feel like I'm going to die, you know, but when you get there for the first time, you always do. Right.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God. It's like, but yeah, that's kind of how it all started. And then I remember I was like total fanboy. The very first AES ride I went to was Kentucky Camp, and both like Scott and Chad were there. I was like, oh my God, like these guys, like I've been like checking these guys' stuff out, and like these guys are like superhuman, like biking heroes to me, you know. It's just like, and they're like the most cool people you ever want to meet. And yeah, that's when I started my DFL collection. I think I own the record for AES, man. I got another one today.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, well, I mean, it's so funny you say that, because like I echo all that same stuff with you guys, with like you and Dana and Kurt and all these like these who I see of the pioneers. And I know there's like pioneers before the pioneers.
But it's how you were introduced to it, right? And yeah, I mean, you can dig deep to be like, all right, well then where did, you know, Scott learn it from? Oh, well, Mike Kuriak was one of the guys. He, you know, learned a lot of his initial like mapping and, you know, route making from. And it's just like, well, I just followed that blueprint. So you can have Scott to blame for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's straight from, you know, route building 101, you know, Scott Morris style.
Right.
So yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah. Hey, if you're not hiking biking, the views probably suck.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Everybody knows that.
You're doing it wrong. There was like 1 or 2 hike bikes today where I was like, this is good.
There was?
Yeah.
I don't know. I had about 20.
Okay.
So, but anyway.
Well, you know, going back to my first ride,
Yeah.
I had about 20 on my first ride where you were passing me like being like, are you okay, man?
Yeah.
I'm like huddled under a bush about to vomit.
Now look at you. You're gone, man.
Yeah. Well, I got a little I got a little obsessed.
Hey,
like,
that's
well,
cool.
That's what happens when you're an addict and you replace an addiction with a different addiction, right?
Yeah.
And now I have like hip ailments and feet ailments and a few other problems, but it's better than, you know, cirrhosis or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
which was the path I was going down. And so, you know, like I said, like, honestly, dude, it like opened up a world to me of like,
that's cool.
I can do this forever. Like, well, I can,
But
not forever, but I mean like
But
I
no,
can
it's
keep
just-
going and I can go further and I can figure something new out. And today I had a strategy for, I'm going to do my water resupply a little faster today. Because the last time I did it, I did a horrible, like I spent 15 minutes screwing around, faffing around with the water resupply. And this year I had like a plan going into it and I saved 10 minutes, Yeah. And so there's always something. And that's what I love about this thing.
Yeah,
So,
it's cool.
yeah. So, all right, man, let's do your shout outs. So we got the Instagram for Arizona Trail is AZT300 _ 800.
Yep.
Right. On Instagram. And then your Shillingsworth.
Yep.
And you do have a blog still.
I do. And I still update it.
Yeah.
I like doing it. So whether anybody looks at it, I don't really care. It's just like, it's funny because I started doing it. I didn't start it like to do like ride reports or trail report. Like all that's been out there. Right.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I wanted a place like to put my photos, because I was like I said, I like taking photos when I'm out riding, and like now there's like a place for them, and it's like, but it's funny because I remember Scott had said this one time because his blog was pretty big and he doesn't keep it updated anymore, but he was like, yeah, I would go back on this ride and I would have to like go read my own report on it to see if I liked it. And I always thought that was like so funny. And then I found myself doing it because over the years, everything kind of like blends together, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm going to go do this. Well, I think I did that one. Well, was it any good? I don't remember. Like, let me go look at my, no, that one sucked. I'm not doing that again. So I was like, all right. But yeah, it's cool.
Record keeping.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. But the joke is like, well, when you're sitting in some retirement community or retirement home and it's like, yeah, I used to do some cool shit. Here it is. You can check it out. Yeah, that's me, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man.
But yeah, it's funny.
Also on Instagram, Queens _ Ransom _ Bikepack.
Yeah.
Also, dude, that was one of my first bikepacking routes and I had ups and downs and I loved it. It was so good. I showed up the second year and I didn't realize it was like a group thing.
I know, and you just like took off. I was like, oh, what's up with this guy?
Well, the whole thing, I didn't get the memo that it was like supposed to be like a stage thing.
Well, yeah, like ride at your own pace, but then stop.
Yeah.
and Dylan's like, nah, I'm just gonna finish.
Well, and I had this plan for redemption because the first year I did it, I broke my chain a bunch of times and it was a disaster. And I was like, I want to go back and I want to do it really fast. And I had just discovered Tailwind.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I was like, dude, this has unlocked the secret code for me. Like, I can go faster.
I mean,
now,
I don't know officially, but you might own the Queen's Ransom FKT. I don't know. I don't keep track of that crap.
Oh, come on, dude.
But I know you did it pretty fast. You did it less than 48 hours, right? It's like 36 or something?
Yeah, it was fat. I slept for, I don't know the time. Dude.
Yeah.
It was I finished at like midnight the second night.
So, yeah, that's, because we started at, 7 a.m.?
Yeah.
So, yeah, do the math on that.
The one FKT I may have,
it could be that
you've stopped tracking.
Well,
FKTs.
that one I never started.
Oh,
so
come on.
yeah, I was like, it's not a race, man.
I know. I thought it was.
But people have asked me like, oh, what's the FKT for Queen's Ransom? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. All right,
anyway,
I'll take it.
I do refer him to you though. I was like, well, this guy Dylan, he did it really quick. He did it less than 48.
All right, dude, I'll take it straight from the mouth.
There you go.
And then you're an ambassador for Binary Bicycles.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Instagram.com/Binary Bicycles.
Yeah.
So they're out of
Sierra Vista now.
Oh.
They used to be Casa Grande, but they moved down to Sierra Vista a couple years ago.
Okay.
So that's where George and Jaylene are, and they're awesome people to work with, and they make some pretty rad bikes.
Yeah.
I love mine. I mean, it's like a lot of things. Like, I wouldn't like support anything that I don't believe in and use, and I beat the shit out of that bike, and there ain't nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, we do rides like we did today.
Which one do you have?
I have the SSP, but I think they stopped making that frame though, but they have plenty of other ones, and yeah.
Didn't they like make frames specific for bikepacking, right? That are like weight load management and stuff.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, their Havoc model was specifically designed for the Tour Divide.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's what I rode on the Tour Divide was that.
Sweet.
So yeah, you can run up to like 3.0 tires on it if you want, but obviously Tour Divide you're not doing that. But yeah, no, it was great.
Cool.
So,
all right, man. Anything else?
I don't think so. One more shout out to Arizona Endurance Series.
Yeah. Shout out, man.
Shout out, man. Hell yeah.
All right. Thanks for everything you do, John.
Thank you.
Man, you're awesome.
Cheers.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Enjoyed it.
I wanted to let you know a few different ways that you can support this podcast. Of course, you can like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Tell other people about it. Tell your friends and family. If you think these conversations I'm having are valuable as I think they are, share it, send it out, ask them to subscribe. That would be amazing. That's a free way that you can support. Another way you can support is by financially support is by becoming a member on either YouTube or Spotify. Those links are always in the description of all the videos. And YouTube members do get some extra perks like member shoutouts during the podcast, priority reply to comments, and best of all, you get early access to new videos that I'm releasing. You can also, if you don't want to sign up for a recurring membership, you can also show me your support by sending a one-time gift using what YouTube calls the super thanks feature. So when you're watching a video, down at the bottom, there's the little buttons, the thumbs up, thumbs down button. And right next to that, there is a heart with a little dollar sign in the middle, and it says thanks next to it. That is the super thanks button. So if you click that, it'll allow you to give a one-time gift, financial gift of your choice. And it's just incredible. Like seeing the support that I've gotten so far from both members and from Super Thanks is just amazing, and it is definitely allowing me to keep this thing rolling down the tracks.